Chris, how you doing if they're ready? All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Good evening. It's September 13th, 2013. Start with an announcement. All open sessions of the Board of Trustees are recorded and streamed in real time at fuhsd.net. Call the meeting to order a few minutes late at 4:33. We're at the Bob Burton Performing Arts Center, Fallbrook, California, 2400 South Stagecoach Lane. We're about to start closed session. The closed session agenda is first one, public employee discipline, dismissal, and release, Government Section Code 54957. B is conference with legal counsel pending litigation, Government Section Code 54956.9D1. Conference with legal counsel anticipating litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Section Code 54956.9D2. Claim number 2324-0816. Fourth is conference with legal negotiators, Government Section Code 54957.6. District Negotiator Ilza Garza Gonzalez, Superintendent. Employee organizations FHSTA and SEIU, and unrepresented employees, classified management, certificated management, and confidential employees. And finally, in student discipline, reinstatement case number 04F2223 and reinstatement case number 05F2223. Opportunities for members of the public to address the board on any of the items described in the agenda for the closed session will be granted now. This is Government Section Code 54954.3. Any public comment?
There are none.
There are none. Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to closed session. Returning from closed session, I show the time as 5:30. We're at the Bob Burton Performing Arts Center, Fallbrook Union High School, 2400 South Stagecoach Lane, Fallbrook, California, 92028. Quick announcement, all open sessions of the Board of Trustees are recorded and streamed in real time at fuhsd.net. If we could stand, please, for the flag salute. All right, thank you. We'll start with roll call. Board of Trustees, Eddie Jones, President. I am here. Oscar Carlampio, Vice President.
Present.
Thank you. Paul Christensen, Clerk.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Area 1 is vacant. Trustee Area 2 is vacant. Student Representatives, Ms. Aguilar.
I'm here.
I'm here. Thank you.
Yes. Oh,
Ms.
I'm here. Sorry.
Ms. Rivero.
Present.
Present. Thank you. And Ms. Hart.
Present.
Thank you very much. Our Superintendent, Ilza Garza Gonzalez.
Present.
Thank you very much. Okay, informal review of the governing team's norms. The Board of Trustees approved norms are that we be respectful, be approachable, be open-minded, be communicative with no surprises, be willing to listen, be prepared, be trustworthy. Report from closed session. There were, I think, 5 items here. Public employee discipline, dismissal, and release, Government Section Code 54957, nothing to report. Government conference with legal counsel pending litigation, Government Section Code 54956.9D1, nothing to report. Conference with legal counsel anticipating litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Section Code 54956.9D2, claim number 2324-0819. The board voted to deny the claim number 2324-0816 with a 3-0 vote. Next, conference with legal negotiators, Government Section Code 54957.6, District Negotiators, Ilza Garza Gonzalez, Employer Organizations, FHSTA and SEIU, Unrepresented Employees, Classified Management, Certificated Management, and Confidential Employees. Nothing to report. E, or the last one, student discipline reimbursement case number 04F2223 and reinstatement case 05F2223. Those actions will be taken later in this agenda. Nothing to report at this particular time. Next, adopt the agenda. If I could get a motion to adopt the agenda for the regular board meeting, September 13th, 2023.
I'll move to adopt the board agenda for the meeting of September 13, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to go ahead and modify the agenda, just change the order of some of the items. I'd like to motion that we move items 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9 to become items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and move item 10 to become item number 6. So there's 6 that we're going to move up earlier, and we're doing this to accommodate some time commitments and for some of our board members. So in case we can't finish the meeting or can't get entirely through the meeting, we want to be able to get those mission critical items. Could I have a second on that?
I'll second the corrections or modification of the agenda for the September 13th, 2023 meeting.
All right, thank you. Go ahead and call for the vote. Student Representative, Ms. Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivera, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mrs. Hart?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Thank you, appreciate that. I'll do the best I can to kind of keep us on track. So, this next, yeah. Public hearing section. Okay, this is, do I need a motion on this? No. All right, this is public hearing session, sunshine of bargaining proposal. Notice is hereby given that on September 13th, 2023, the Board of Trustees of the Fallbrook Union High School District will conduct a public hearing regarding the sunshine bargaining proposal for the SEIU Local 2221 during the regular session. Then it is to begin at or after 5:30. So I would like to call a public hearing for the sunshine bargaining proposal for the Service Employees Union Local 221 at, I'll go with 5:36, thank you. Ms. Garza Gonzalez, are there any public verbal comments regarding this public hearing?
There are none.
Thank you. No comments. Let the record show that no one addressed the board regarding this topic. I'd like to go ahead and adjourn the public hearing for this sunshine bargaining proposal for the Service Employees International Union Local 221 at 5:37. Here.
Based on the modification to the agenda, we would move to the action items. And I would like the public to know that anybody who wishes to speak on an agendized item can do so right before the item. All other public comments will be moved to the end of the agenda as modified at the start of the meeting. So the first action item would be action item number 4, which becomes action item number 1.
Yep. Okay, so this is an action item. It'll require a motion, and this is Sunshine of District Collective Bargaining Service Proposal with Service Employees International Union, SEIU Local 221.
I'll go ahead for the motion, the action item, sunshine of district collective bargaining proposal with Service Employees International Union.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Mr. Carlampio, any discussion? Ms. Garza Gonzalez?
So a sunshine proposal basically allows for the district to enter negotiations with our collective bargaining units. In this case, it is with SEIU. They are opening the following articles for negotiation: Article 14, compensation; Article 16, insurance benefits; and Article 20, vacation. At the October meeting, the district will be sunshining their articles, and negotiations can begin after that.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board members? Hearing none, I'd like to call for the vote. Ms. Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Next, second is going to be action item number 5. This is under educational services. An action item, consolidated application for funding.
I'm going to move that we have the action item, consolidated application for funding.
Thank you. I'll go, Mr. Christensen. Jones, I will second that. Emily Toon, we're going to be asking you for a little explanation, please.
Good evening, members of the board. The consolidated application is a yearly application that we submit for our federal funds, and it includes a variety of assurances that are listed on the agenda item for you, just to ensure that we are abiding by all of the regulations of ESEA, and this is what allows us to apply for our Title I, our Title II, our Title III, and our Title IV federal funds.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, student representative. Ms. Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Great job. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Thank you. Next, we're going to be going to, third is going to be item 6. This is resolution number 01-2324, sufficiency of instructional materials. Can I get a motion on this, please?
I move that the board approve the adoption of resolution number 2024, sufficiency of instructional materials as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Carlampio, Mr. Christensen. Ms. Emily Toon?
Yes, this is also a yearly item that we bring to the board. Once the school year has begun, we always evaluate our instructional materials. We actually began far before the beginning of the school year, and I'm pleased to report we have sufficiency of instructional materials across the board. And our students, we have, in fact, a good amount of our textbooks. Not only do we have sufficiency of instructional materials, but for most of them, they have a book at home, at school, and online access.
Thank you. Board members, any questions?
How about, how are we doing with hands-on materials like for anatomy or any other CTE classes? Does that fit into this?
For the CTE classes?
Yes.
Yes. So for all of our programs, that would be the sufficiency of instructional materials. So we work with our department chairs and our teachers directly in terms of what resources that they need, which ones are already approved by the district. And then as we have needs that come up, we either purchase more, because depending on our enrollment for our students, or if we need to do new adoptions, then we go through new adoptions.
Is there money allocated for teachers to be able to buy new materials in case anything breaks? I know that we have like textbooks and we have all the materials for them, but in case a learning instrument breaks, can they then replace it?
Yes, so we actually have a variety of different funds that go towards instructional materials. We have instructional lottery, which is really focused on textbooks and direct curricular materials. There's also site budgets that go to each of the different departments for instructional materials. And then because of the pandemic, we've had a variety of different funds from COVID relief funds. So we've been able to actually purchase additional instructional materials. And then with the Arts Block grant, I know there's also been some additional instructional materials purchased with the Arts Block grant as well.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Student representatives, we'll call for the vote. Ms. Aguilar?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Ms. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Jones says aye. Area 1 and Area 2 are vacant. Fourth is going to be number 8, action item to adopt a resolution 02-2324 regarding exchange of property tax revenues in connection with territory transfer. Everybody got that? Yeah, ready.
I motion for the action item, adoption of resolution number 02-2324 regarding exchange of property tax revenues in connection with territory transfer.
I second.
Thank you. First and second by Mr. Christensen and Ms. Carlampio. Any discussion or questions? All right. Student representative, Ms. Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Fifth, this is listed in your agenda as action number 9, resolution number 03-2324, applications limit GAN.
So I'll motion for the action item, resolution number 03-2324, appropriations limit for the GAN.
GAN limit, okay.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Ms. Carlampio, first and second. Any questions or discussions? All right, student representatives, Aguilar.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen? Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. 6, and I think the last one, the ones we moved around, 6 is item 10 in your packet. This is an action item, audited actuals financial report 2022 and 23.
So I'll motion for the action item, unaudited actuals financial report 2022 to 23.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Mr. Carlampio? Ms. Brenda Mefford?
Good evening. I have a short presentation here to review the unaudited actuals. These are the final numbers of all of our revenues and our expenditures as we closed the books. So there's no assumptions, this is real, this is my favorite part, because these are real things the way they happened. And it must be board approved by September 15th, so we're here tonight to go through this. And I think we're going to go through it.
Chris, could you forward the slide, please?
One forward, please. Okay, so these are general fund, and this is the revenue. It's broken down by unrestricted and restricted. I will just announce the final totals. LCFF sources, which is our property taxes and state aid, which is the majority of our funding, we received $29.5 million. Our federal funding, we received 4.4. Other state is $6.1 million. Local, which are some local grants and our use of facilities and things like that, that's $2.3 million. So overall, we closed the 22-23 fiscal year with $42,458,170 received in revenue. And then next is expenditures. Okay, and expenditures, they're broken down unrestricted and restricted as well, but I'll just read the totals. In certificated salaries, we spent $14.2 million. Classified salaries, $6.3. Employee benefits, and that's all employees included, $9,075,000. Books and supplies, $2.7 million. Services and other outgo expenditures, which include our transportation, and all of our utilities, that's everything that is encompassed in there. Our property and liability insurance, those are all wrapped up in services and other outgo. That's $5.7 million. Capital outlay, which is any item over $5,000, which becomes an asset, any equipment, $611,000. North County Consortium for Special Education and Juvenile Court Schools, total spent there was $777,000. And our indirect costs, we took a net of $57,000 in, and those are the allowable indirect costs that we charge from other grants, which we don't do too much of that. We pretty much try to have the grant go back to the students it was intended to. The majority of our indirect costs come from Fund 13 because that's the cafeteria and we are allowed to take indirects. That's the majority of our indirect costs. So our total expenditures overall were $39,474,397. And next, our ending fund balance. So ending fund balance is where we take our beginning fund balance from the prior year and our revenues are added to it, our expenditures are deducted from it, and it shows our commitments. So our beginning balance was $8,747,122. In revolving cash, we ended the year with $37,000. Our commitments, the board has approved in 2 different board meetings $100,000 for the track and field, and $500,000 for pool modernization. So you'll see that total commitment amount of $600,000. Assignments, we do have a board policy that we retain a 6% reserve, which is 3% higher than the state's required reserve. So that additional 3% is $1,184,232. And in the carryover, I have included supplemental concentration. As we all know, supplemental concentration is for our unduplicated students. So we did have $740,756 remaining at the end of the 22-23 school year. So we're not allowed to have that just fall into ending fund balance. So we have to carve it out, and it is already budgeted in the new year. But I need to show here that that's not just unencumbered money. So our total assignments were $1,924,988. And then our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty is $1,184,000. So that leaves a total unassigned, not committed, not assigned, kind of in our savings, if you will, $4,845,068. Are there any questions, just because I know that was a big one and I went through it rather quickly?
When can we start seeing some savings cost in the solar? For
I
what
did not,
school year?
I did not budget savings for solar until the 24-25, because it's barely, or I think it was maybe the end of 23-24, not in the first half. So maybe the end, and there's a little bit, but then in 24-25, the full savings we're supposed to see is about $450,000. That's where I budgeted the full savings. This year I did a little bit, but I wasn't too sure of how the schedule was going to go. So it's fully in effect in the following year.
If you recall, the solar panels, the structures are being built, but they won't actually be turned on for another year because of the shortages in the supply chain.
So that was general fund, which is Fund 1, which is our main operating fund. Fund 13 is restricted, and it's only for food services. And so we started the year with $3.5 million. We took in 1.8 in revenues, and we spent 1.5. So we end the year with $3,871,829. Our Fund 13 is doing very well. Fund 21, that's our building fund, that's our bond funds. So at the beginning of the year, we started with $29.4 million. We received $787,000, and that's mainly in interest. And our expenditures were $2,182,430. So we ended the year with $28,016,782. We do have budgeted in the 23-24 school year to spend that on our ongoing, the CTE project and all the projects that are ongoing now, the bleachers. Fund 25, that's developer fees. Those are the fees that we receive from anybody adding square footage to their home, any developments in our area. We started the year with $3.4 million. We received $405,000. We spent $556,000, and those expenditures were for the ag project. So far the soft costs, the architect and DSA and the things that we've had to do so far for the ag project have been paid for out of Fund 25, which is developer fees. That entire project will be paid out of developer fees. So at the end of 22-23, we ended with $3,342,145 in Fund 25. Fund 40, that's our capital outlay fund. That's the one where when we have additional revenue that we didn't plan on. For instance, impact aid sometimes comes in higher than we expected. We've moved it here. We had a rebate on our 1994 bonds, so we split a portion. We split that with Bonzel. Our portion we put back into Fund 40. That can be used for capital outlay since, as you're very well aware, our facility needs are far greater than our resources. So we're trying to put money away whenever we can in Fund 40. So we ended the year with $1,089,568 in Fund 40. And those are all of our operating funds in the district.
Thank you, Ms. Bedford. I don't have any questions. I appreciate the detailed report. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you. No questions. Call for the vote. Start with the student representatives. Ms. Aguilar?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivero?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
And Mr. Jones also says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Okay. Now we go back to what's listed as item number 1, I believe. There we go. This is informational, revised, new, and deleted board policies, administrative regulations, and exhibits. This is under superintendent/human resources. Ms. Garza Gonzalez?
Yes. This is an informational item. Ongoing reviews and updates are necessary with board policies and administrative regulations. The review enables the district to ensure the policies, regulations, exhibits, and bylaws conform to state and federal law. The district compares its policies, regulations, exhibits, and bylaws with CSBA recommendations. Additionally, the review serves as a reminder of the governance team and staff of the operational principles and implementation guidelines for the district. There are no financial implications associated with the agenda item. Implementation of the proposed revisions support district efforts to help students attain the goals identified in the LCAP and the revised, new, and deleted board policies. Administrative regulations and exhibits presented are informational items for first reading and will be placed on the next agenda for action.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that information? All right. And item number 2 is an action item, revised, new, and deleted board policies, administrative regulations, and exhibits. Need a motion on this, please?
I'll motion for the action item number 2, revised new and deleted board policies and administrative regulations and exhibits.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Mr. Carlampio? Any questions or discussion on this? Hearing none. Student representatives, Aguilar?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Rivero?
Aye.
Thank you. Hart?
Aye.
Great. This is Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Jones also says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Number 3 is an action item. Approved amendment to the superintendent's employment agreement. Can I get a motion on this, please?
I'll motion for the action item, approve amendment to the superintendent's employment agreement.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carlampio. Mr. Christensen, Mr. Carlampio? Any questions or discussion? All right. Student representatives, should we approve the superintendent's contract? Ms. Aguilar?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Number 4 is an action item. I think we talked about this earlier. Sunshine of District Collective Bargaining Proposal with Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 221. I already did that.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me. Moving to number 7. Thanks, Paul. I need all the help. Okay, number 7 is an action item. Approve denied reimbursement discipline case 04F2223 and 05F2223. This is an action item discussed in closed session. Can we have a motion on this, please?
I'll motion for the action item approve denied reinstatement discipline cases 04F2223 and 05F2223.
Thank you. I'll second that. Christensen and Jones. No discussion on this. Board members will, student representatives will not be voting on this. Mr. Carlampia, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant.
Action item 11.
11 is next. Everybody's on action item number 11. Guys are keeping up better than I am. Okay, we'll need a motion on this. This is to approve contract amendment number 1 with American Modular Systems to provide relocated buildings for field restrooms project at Fallbrook High School.
I'll motion for the action item, the recommendation to approve contract amendment 01.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Mr. Carlampio? Miss Brenda Mefford?
Yes, these are the relocatable buildings that we purchased from American Modular. And when we ordered them, the things that had to be changed were the drinking fountain, the toilet accessories. And those were because the ones that they had were not, they were for indoor use, and we needed the outdoor use. And so we had to do this change. It's $927, but since it's an amendment to what the board originally approved, we had to come back and ask for your approval.
All right.
Where
All
would these
right.
bathrooms be set up?
I'm sorry?
Okay, so are there any further questions for Ms. Mefford or Ms. Garza Gonzalez? All right, we'll call for the vote. Student representatives, Ms. Aguilar?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant, Area 2 is vacant. Number 12 is another action item. Just to be clear, we've had a couple discussions here. This is also going to be listed as amendment number 1. These are somebody else's numbers, so this is a different amendment than what we just talked about. This is an action item. Recommend to approve contract amendment number 1 with the American Modular Systems to provide modular buildings for the CTE project at Fallbrook High School. Action item, we'll need a motion on this, please.
I move that the board approve contract amendment number 1 with AMS for the CT project at Fallbrook High.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Carlampio and Mr. Christensen, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Mefford? Would you like an explanation, or are we good? Go ahead and move right to the vote. Student representatives, Ms. Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivero?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. If I am going too fast, somebody please let me know. Action item number 13, kind of the same speech on this. Recommended to approve contract amendment number 1 with the American Modular Systems to provide relocation buildings, this time for portable replacement project at Fallbrook High School. Motion, please.
I'll motion for the action item number 13, recommendation to approve contract amendment 01 with American Modular Systems to provide relocatable buildings for the portable replacement project at the high school.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Ms. Jones will second it. Does anybody need a clarification from Ms. Mefford? All right, we'll move to the vote. Student representatives, Ms. Aguilar?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Action item number 14 is an action item. Recommended to approve contract amendment number 2 with Bernard Brothers to provide construction management services for the Fallbrook Union High School HVAC upgrade project. As an action item, we'll need a motion, please. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve action item number 14, amendment contract 02 with Bernard's Brothers as stated. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Anybody need explanation from Ms. Medford? Student representatives, how do you vote? Ms. Aguilar?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. 15 is another action item. Recommend to approve contract amendment number 8 with Rodeo Clark Architects to provide architectural and engineering design services for electrical service repair project at Fallbrook High School. And again, this is an action item.
I move that the board approve contract amendment number 8 to the master service agreement with Renault Clark Architects.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Carlampio. Mr. Christensen? Same thing. Does anybody need any explanation from Ms. Medford? Student representatives, Ms. Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. 16 is an action item. Recommendation to authorize use of San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools bid number 2324-005 award to CN School and Office Solutions Incorporated for furniture and standalone. And again, this is an action item.
I moved the action item 16, recommend to authorize use of San Bernardino County Superintendent of School bid for the furniture and standalone.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Mr. Carlampio, any questions or discussion? Ms. Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant. Okay. Next is our consent agenda. We went a little out of order, but I think I messed something up a little bit. I did. Action, number 17 is an action item to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move for the action item approval of consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Mr. Jones will second that. Any discussion or questions? Student representatives, this is for all of the things listed in the consent agenda. Did I? Let me read this. Okay. All matters listed in the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Trustees to be routine and will be enacted in one action. There is usually no discussion of these items prior to the time the Board of Trustees votes on the motion unless members of the public request specific items to be discussed and deleted from the consent agenda. We have a motion and second. Student representatives, Aguilar, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Hart?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Carlampio?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Jones says aye. Area 1 is vacant. Area 2 is vacant.
We're now at public verbal comments.
Okay, public verbal comments. The Fallbrook Union High School District Board of Education encourages and invites the public to comment on agenda and non-agenda items. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Per legislation 1292, the board will give twice the allotted time to a member of the public who utilize translation technology assistance to address the board. Total public input on any one subject will be limited to 20 minutes and may be extended at the discretion of the board president. Consent. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard at this time, and of course, we've already had an opportunity to talk on agenda items. Speakers will be called in the order by topic and when their card was submitted. Do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
Thank you very much. Communication and reports. Report from student board representatives. Before we start, I want to apologize for moving as quickly as I can. Welcome to our board. We appreciate your input. I'd like you to take your time and go ahead and tell us what you have prepared. Who would like to go first? Okay, Ms. Aguilar? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Cassandra Rivero, and I'm a senior at Fallbrook High School. I have been in ASB for 3 years now as sophomore and junior class president, and now I am ASB president. I am also currently on the cross-country team for my second year, and I have also run long distance for the track and field team since freshman year here at Fallbrook. To begin with my report, ASB is currently working on planning for homecoming, which will be September 30th. The theme is Candyland, and we plan to do it in the bowl, which I believe is the first time it has ever been done there. We have begun selling tickets, which are set at $40, but will continuously rise as we get closer to the date, and eventually they will be $60 the night of. We will also be hosting a blood drive on September 18th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be 45 spots open, and it is only open for students 17 and older. We have a sign-up sheet online that is linked to our ASB Instagram account, and in past years we have been completely booked up, so I believe that this will be a good turnout. ASB is also hosting many lunchtime activities next week, the 18th through the 22nd for Hispanic Heritage Month. They have 2 spirit dress-up days for the week, as well as many different activities during lunch. And then after being settled from summer break, we hosted a club rush where all of the clubs on campus were able to share their club and recruit new members. We also recently had a new club made on campus, which was the Black Student Union, which received a lot of signups during Club Rush. Aside from what ASB is putting together, our fall sports are all very active and each team is working together well. Cross country has one more invitational race this Saturday at Morley Field in San Diego, where before they begin their league clusters. Our girls tennis is currently 5 for 4. Girls field hockey is currently 3-2 after a win yesterday against Del Norte High School with a score of 4-0. Our football team is 3 for 1 and is currently preparing for a tough game this Friday against La Costa Canyon. And our girls volleyball team is working hard as well this season, and they have a 9-6 record. Finally, our boys water polo has a 2 for 4 record, but are competing tomorrow against Point Loma High School. And that is all that I have to report. I look forward to representing Fallbrook High and keeping you all informed on all the events and activities that take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Iris Aguilar, and I am a senior at Ivy High School. I started attending Ivy at the end of my sophomore year, 2021. I was transferred to Ivy for credit recovery and loss of motivation. Since I have been at Ivy, I feel like I have been able to meet and connect with many students, staff, and teachers. In my personal experience at Ivy, I have grown and been pushed to be a better person in many ways. The staff at Ivy have impacted my life by encouraging me and making sure we are on track to reach our ultimate goal of graduation. They collaborate with us, which has helped me think about my future with an academic plan. At Ivy High School, I have learned many things. One of the important things I have learned is you should not be afraid of attempting to do something hard. Becoming resilient with our minds and not quitting is an important life lesson. We are learning how to work through our challenges, teaching us it is a part of growing, learning, and succeeding. Students at Ivy have the opportunity to attend programs after school such as Cooking with Keener, a learning center where we can get extra help on APEX classes, driver's ed, art, and a safe place to socialize. We have the Woman Wonder Writers and Boys to Men program weekly, which helps us and teaches us many skills to communicate our feelings in a mature, assertive way. Another thing we are working on to transform our campus is our leadership team, I Lead. We plan to work together so we can make our campus a beautiful, safe, and comfortable place through student leadership. We will learn to work as a team and communicate while also connecting with each other on campus projects. We have some upcoming events that will support our students and will build our culture at Ivy High School. This afternoon, Ivy held its first ever leadership meeting. We are calling our leadership team I Lead. Ivy will be holding its very first ELAC meeting tomorrow night in the Ivy NPR room at 5:30 p.m. On October 11th, all Ivy 11th graders will take the PSAT. While the 11th graders focus on the PSAT, the seniors will have the opportunity to take a course to either earn a OSHA industry credential or a food handler's industry credential. On October 12th, our students will engage in team building activities by participating in a field activity during advisory. As a student representative for Ivy, my goal is to observe, listen, and learn and inform about student board culture, which will help me advocate for my peers as we transform Ivy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least,
Good evening. My name is Kira Hart, and I am a 10th grader at Oasis High School. I joined Oasis last year in the second semester, and one of the main reasons I wanted to attend is because of their independent study program, which allows me to take college courses through Palomar while still in high school. This is called concurrent enrollment and differs from dual enrollment because the student is in charge of their own pathway and completes courses on their own. These courses are practically free, aside from a $28 student fee each semester, and are available to students virtually or in person. For students who want to accelerate their college pathway, this can be a great alternative because they can graduate at the normal pace while accumulating college credits at an inexpensive rate, ultimately making college tuition less expensive. I personally have already taken one in the semester that I started, and am on track to take two this semester, which will start in October. In my experience at Oasis, I have found that my school provides an individualized plan for each student, allowing them to easily meet their A through G requirements and excel in each of their classes. Along with the weekly email to parents of a student's grades and the number of assignments completed, students will also meet with their teachers on a weekly basis to discuss their progress, ensure they are on the right track, and see if additional help is needed. The PSAT is also scheduled to take place at Oasis High School on October 11th for our juniors. Sophomores who are interested in taking the PSAT should email our principal, Mrs. Gardner, to secure their spot. Students at Oasis are also available to participate in sports, events, or clubs through Fallbrook High School, including upcoming football games or, as Cassandra mentioned, homecoming, which is on September 30th. As the student representative for Oasis, I hope to make the benefits of concurrent enrollment more aware to the students here, while also communicating important events and representing the students to the best of my ability. Thank you.
thank you very much.
President Jones, I would like to move forward with presentations before the board reports and my report, because we do have staff in the audience that have been waiting to do that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Any objections from the, all right? Yes, let's go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first presentation is Attendance Awareness Month by Sylvia Villegas, our Supervisor of Attendance. Ms. Villegas.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Garza Gonzalez, and everyone in attendance. My name is Sylvia Villegas. I am the supervisor of attendance of our high school district. This afternoon, or this evening, sorry, I will share with you attendance updates and how I've been carrying out my role and responsibilities since my appointment in February of this year. As supervisor of attendance, my goal is to connect and establish a relationship with our students and their families to identify the unique situations that hinder their students from taking full advantage of the educational opportunities that are offered here at Fallbrook High School. Upon establishing such a connection, I offer them additional support and connect them to appropriate community resources. In turn, this helps the students improve their educational experience at our high school. I want to ensure our students and their families that as supervisor of attendance at Fallbrook High School, I am here to offer support and guidance with attendance concerns, help identify their challenges and barriers that intervene from taking advantage of education opportunities, follow through with phone calls and home visits. Many times, the families that I interact over the phone or meet at their home, they are surprised to see that a school staff member is actually taking the time to provide support and connect with them and their student. Since starting my role in spring of 2023, I have been connecting with the counselors, case managers, and attendance office staff to identify the chronic absentee students, conducted daily proactive phone calls and meetings with parents, guardians to discuss attendance concerns, and conducting home visits for these identified students. I really strive to link students and families to community resources and provide early outreach and target support through keeping the lines of communication open with the students about the importance of school attendance. In the next slide, you will see the attendance rates for the 3 high schools. As you can see, the data shows that as a district, 27% of students were chronically absent for the 22-23 school year. Since the beginning of this new school year, 11.9% of students are chronically absent. As you can see, the chronic absentee data represents grades 9 through 12, and it's broken down per high school, per school year. Some of the common themes that have come about from phone calls and home visits to chronically absent students are under the social emotional realm, anxiety, depression, students are struggling academically, personal traumatic events, and just dynamics in the parent-student relationship. And these are just to name a few that I've noticed as I'm working with these students and their families. By looking at the data and some of the common leading causes of chronic absenteeism, we are striving to continue working as a team and engaging with the student and their families and just educating them on the importance of education and just keeping the lines of communication open, just to make them aware of the importance of education and of their attendance. During the fall semester, we have reinstated the Student Attendance Review Team, the SART, and the Student Attendance Review Board, SARB, process for those students who are chronically absent. We will continue to work collaboratively with the parent and the student to engage students back to school. Also, September is Attendance Awareness Month, and we have posted positive attendance messages of the importance of attendance on the school site's social media like Instagram. We have also partnered with the Associated Student Body or ASB students to help promote attendance by making posters and putting them up around campus to promote positive attendance amongst their peers, which you can see in the following last slide here. These are some of the posters that ASB students put together. Thank you.
Ms. Villegas, could you please explain to the board and to the public what chronically absenteeism is, the formula that is used and how we track that?
Those are the students that are absent 3 days or 10% more, 10% of their attendance.
So because it's 10% of the days that school has been in session, it's a
Yes.
moving target.
Correct.
Okay, so, yeah, thank you for that clarification. So I'm looking at the attendance rate on the yellow box here. So it looks like the fall 23 numbers are improved. However, they can go, that's like where we are snapshot right now.
Right
And they can
now.
move up or down, correct?
Right. So that's as of this first trimester, since the beginning of the new school year in August.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on this?
No, do we have the data for the fall of 2022 in reference to what it was this time last year?
I don't have that with me. Dr. Luna, do you know if we have that? Here, yeah.
Sure. No,
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just curious what the numbers would be in comparison from fall to fall.
Right.
We haven't hit the flu, sick, winter ski season. So I would assume those numbers go up through the year, but just curious.
I guess I would ask that to anybody here just a little bit differently. Is there a seasonal period that's worse than the other semesters?
I wouldn't personally be able to provide the answer to the question because I just recently started in spring.
I
2023.
understand, so.
And when we're talking about chronic absenteeism and missing 10% of the school days, so the first week of school, for example, if you are absent one day, then you're chronically absent. If things get better, then it improves from there. But there are reasons that are considered excused absences that wouldn't tag a student as being chronically absent. So a student that is ill, that actually provides documentation that they are ill, from a doctor, et cetera, would have an excused absence. A student that has to go to a court proceeding, a citizenship proceeding, anything like that, as long as they provide the school with a documentation, it is an excused absence. And one of the wonderful things about our Saturday Enrichment Academy is that students that have an unexcused absence who attend that 4-hour session can make up one of those absences. So again, the chronic absenteeism is a moving target, but we do know that if you're absent more than 10% of the days in attendance, it starts to affect academic achievement.
Thank you.
Ms. Villegas, two-part question. How have you been treated how have you been welcomed by parents when you do home visits? And is there anything that we can do to support you so that you could feel safe when you do those home visits? How have those interactions been?
The home visits have been going well because I've been partnering with the counselors and overall the home visits, the parents are surprised when they do open the door. They're surprised that we're actually there to support them and their student because they do want their students back on campus. I feel supported by the parents as well as they do because, that's our main goal. So far, everything's been going well for the home visits.
Thank you. And thank you for everything that you do. You're really targeting and supporting some of our most vulnerable students, and I really appreciate that. Gracias.
Yeah, Dr. Luna?
So we wanted to add with regards to absences, we do notice an increase when we get close to the holidays, so November through January, and a bit come spring break. You have some families that will take an early vacation. We have Thanksgiving as well, so we do notice that. And then Ms. Garza-Gonzalez did mention, and that's a piece we're going to try clarifying with families, that though you call to say your child was homesick, realize that we don't get a verification from the doctor, it still shows up as an unexcused. So that does impact our data as well and their students. Because there were having parents that have called concern, and we had to clarify that for.
Thank you.
And then I was just going to add a small bit about the data. I don't have the exact numbers, but when I ran the data, probably about December of last year, the percentage at Fallbrook High School especially was much higher. So I was around in the 30% range of students who were chronically absent. And so what I saw, I believe on the slide, was somewhere in the teens, if I remember correctly.
So our numbers are improved in comparison. That's good. Is the absenteeism, like you're talking about the spring break, winter break, I don't know what they call it anymore, but are those in relation to like other families that students have, other families that have students in other districts, say Bonsall, like if we're not matching up our spring break with them, is that part of the chronic absenteeism? Has that ever been something that's been addressed, like to line up our spring break with theirs so that families don't have to extend vacations or have that absenteeism?
Majority of our families have siblings who are coming from the elementary district, and we are lined up with our breaks there. I could not tell you off the top of my hand if we're lined up with Bonsall, but I don't.
Might be similar, maybe just off a few days. But again, it depends on when they take their vacation and they plan it out. Don't consult with us.
I'm not trying to open a can of worms, I was just curious.
Yes, we only articulate with our feeder districts. So those are the only districts where we match up our calendars. Each district is independent and they have their own board. So sometimes, for example, Vallecitos will start 2 days after we start our school year. And it's just a matter of communicating and making sure that we get the information out to them. With the elementary school district, we do try to match up the calendars as much as we can to that. And then I would also like to remind the board, because you mentioned the high chronic absenteeism rates from fall semester of last year, we did not have a supervisor of attendance. So Ms. Villegas was hired in February. Mr. Mosqueda started the year subbing and didn't return to the supervisor of attendance position. He's actually in the classroom, but we have seen both with Mr. Mosqueda and Ms. Villegas, when we have this position filled, our attendance rates improve.
I think this is a really great investment, and just numbers are one thing, right? But students in classroom is like the greater testimony of having our kids here. Gracias.
Ms. Vegas, thank you very much, and I know we kind of dumped some hard questions on you, so I appreciate it and appreciate the assist. Just want to say how important this is to our school. If I understand correctly, there's a really strong correlation negatively between chronic absenteeism and poor student performance. So love the work you're doing. It's really important. If you have any ideas, anything outside the box, talk to the superintendent. Any ideas you have, we'd love to hear it. And it looks like we've got good progress so far. So thank you very much on this, your work on this important topic.
Thank you. I'm just trying to, thank you. I always try to make sure that I, ask the students themselves to hear their voice, because that's what they have, their voice. So just try to advocate for them and just offer them solutions that they themselves can bring to the table.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is College and Career Readiness, and it will be presented by Ms. Emily Tuner, Director of Education Services, and Dr. Annabelle Luna, Director of Student Services.
Hello, board. We're going to go through and kind of take turns presenting some of the information. So as you notice, we're at career and college readiness, because that is actually a direction we're trying to go with our leadership teams, as career pathways, as that can be approached in any method possible.
I know that many of you are already familiar with our dashboard, but just a brief overview is that the dashboard is our California accountability system. It's reflected in our LCAP in many different areas. And it's really how we measure success of our students and where there are areas of need and growth. And the College and Career Readiness Indicator is one that we're going to focus on tonight. During the pandemic, the dashboard was impacted in a variety of areas. There was a year that we didn't give the SBAC exam, and that ties to a lot of other indicators throughout the dashboard. So this December 2023 is the first time that we will actually have an indicator where it's an overall rating for college and career readiness. If you go to the dashboard in previous years, there is some granular data, but not an overall indicator, and you'll see at the top of the slide there, it has the colors and that's kind of the overall indicator for each of the different indicators. There are 6 state indicators. All of these are required to be reflected in our local control and accountability plan. And so as I had mentioned, some of these were definitely impacted by the pandemic, the college career indicator being one. And we're going to go over some of the updates and how that's changed. They took the opportunity of the pandemic to change the way that the indicators worked in some respects. On the left side in blue, which is our Smarter Balanced assessments in ELA and math, our AP exams, our IB exams, and college credit courses, those are standalone. So if students are meeting any of those blue, they are considered to be prepared. Down towards the bottom in pink, you'll see the A to G requirements, but then there's a subset. So any student who is taking their A to G courses, getting a C or better, also needs to meet one of those 4 other criteria to be considered prepared. In yellow, the state seal of biliteracy is contingent upon the Smarter Balanced assessment. Leadership in military science, also contingent on some scores for the Smarter Balanced assessment. And then the CTE pathway completion, also contingent upon meeting one of those 2 criteria down there at the bottom, and that's the one in far right in blue. One of the things that has changed, which is really nice, and as Dr. Luna said, we're really trying to focus on career because that's the ultimate goal of our students, and our college is one pathway for our students to get to a potential career. One of the things that they have changed is there is delineation in terms of this is a career readiness pathway, and here is a college readiness pathway. So that is some new things that have come up in the new indicator. And then Dr. Luna will go through some of the data that we've had over the past few years.
So as Ms. Toon mentioned, we do have some data from 2017 to 2020. You'll notice it's all based on preparedness for college and career. The yellow being not prepared, there are certain indicators that are missing. Approaching means that really it was probably some minor things that were missing. They probably got a D in a class that didn't meet A through G, maybe missing a course in CT to be completers, to fully be prepared. And then your purple shows the percentage of students that are prepared within the last few years. And if you do see there's a trend, we were increasing in number of prepared students. We know as we continue kind of guiding our counseling staff and our teachers on what all the pathways are, working on grades as well, we should see an increase. And the dip, of course, we did have COVID that happened, so that would explain some of that dip as well. Now because we are not seeing actual preparedness data, what they did is broke it down by indicators. So you'll notice on here for 2021 of the graduating class, you'll see that we have each one broken down there, like A through G met 32.5%, but we also have completed A through G recs and CT pathway are 3.8%. So that means those 20 students there would be considered as being prepared based on the CCI indicators. You can also see, so there was an error on the college credit courses percentages. That's actually 0.8% of students that actually took 2 semesters of a college course. The college credit for one course was 5.2. Our seal of biliteracy, that was actually 11.9% of students, which is 62 that received the seal of biliteracy. Leadership, military science, that was actually something that was still in approval, so that's why there was no CDE data reported until 2022. And if you notice with 2022, again, we're adjusting with the same changes and trying to get our students back here. Those in green would be kiddos that would be counted as being prepared. So for AP exams, we had an increase, 12.3%. We had with A through G completion plus CTE pathway, 6%, those are 32. And a lot of it also had to do as we were cleaning up our pathways and making sure that there were a 2-course sequence. So that ended up helping our data as well. With A through G, there were 30.8% students that were A through G meeting the requirements. So if we actually were to go through and break down all the data, we could probably figure out how many of them would be considered as prepared. So we are seeing some increases. We also see some areas of improvement, and those are the things that we're going to try and focus on, because the way the dashboard's set up, this is really where we're being graded on. A through G is one piece, but there are all the other pieces that kids can show us that they're being prepared, and it's just trying to do our best job of again, helping them, show them the different opportunities out there to be prepared.
Seniors only?
Yeah, so this is data, CDE or CCI, it's always with graduating class, and it's public to everyone. We are, what we are doing is trying to track as well our current students, so that you're bringing that up. That is something that we're working on, creating a document where it has the actual A through G and trying to show these indicators for our current students. So that's a document that we're working on finalizing. So it gives us a better idea of where our current 10th, 11th graders are and try and meet those pieces and try and adjust schedules as needed. Any other questions?
Thank you. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of different pathways, so good job putting that all together.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot to this, so I appreciate your work and diligence. Overall, it looks like numbers are improving, and hope to have them continue. So appreciate both of you and your work and diligence on this. I don't have any other questions. Oscar, do you have any?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, our Fallbrook's finest for the month of September. If I could request that the board and Ms. Mesa step off the stage to recognize our Fallbrook's finest attendees. And Chris, if you could put the PowerPoint. Thank you. So I'm actually going to start from slide number 4 and move up. Since Ms. Walker is our only attendee here today, you are Fallbrook's finest, just for waiting until the end to be recognized. Thank you so much, and we apologize for that. Year after year, Kelly Walker is recognized as one of Fallbrook's finest. Her colleagues state she is one of the greatest teachers they have ever had the privilege of working with. She deeply cares for each and every student that she teaches. She is an expert in the subjects that she teaches and has been a valuable collaborator when it comes to helping others plan curriculum or assessments. Her knowledge of so many different things is extremely helpful to everyone at Ivy High School. There is no Ivy High School without Kelly Walker. She is the heart and soul of the school. Kelly serves as a social science teacher and as the lead teacher for Ivy High School. She frequently is a contributing member to our negotiations team, being a voice for Ivy. Congratulations and thank you for all that you do. And Chris, if we can go to slide number 2 now. I'd also like to recognize Victor Rojo Ibarra who is a paraeducator 4 in our special education department. Mr. McIntyre states Victor is deserving to be recognized for his continued praiseworthy dedication and commitment to the special education program. Victor's compassion is evident with his effective and knowledgeable methodologies. He is determined to be an influential member to the learning process and growth achieved for all students in the program. Victor has assisted across multiple environments and taken on roles that have and continue to provide students with opportunities that support their well-being and promote continuous student achievement. We are proud to recognize Victor Rojo Ibarra as one of Fallbrook's finest, and we will make sure that he receives his certificate. Second, or lastly, I would like to recognize Kimberly Vasquez. Ms. Vasquez is a paraeducator 2 in our special education department. Ms. Julia Minderman states Kimberly is one of the finest employees we have. Her dedication, passion, and empathy for the student makes her one of the best paraeducators on our staff. Kimberly is a natural leader and is always ready to make decisions, train new people, and problem solve. Another one of her important attributes is her outstanding work ethic. Kimberly is always on time, always at work, and she will always let us know months ahead of time if she has a doctor's appointment and must be out. She understands that her absence impacts the school as a whole, but most importantly, it impacts the students that she works with. For these reasons, Kimberly Vasquez is one of Fallbrook's finest, and again, we'll make sure that she gets her certificate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rounding third here, I think. Okay, report from board members, please. Would anybody like to go first?
I'll just make
Go
it
ahead.
quick. Just want to welcome our 3 student leaders. You're doing a great job, and really happy to be working with you. Welcome.
I agree. Welcome. I'm impressed that all 3 of you were able to say "I" with a question mark at the end each time, because I wasn't sure if you were positive on what you're saying positive to. But welcome. You'll learn as you go, but it is a lot of fun. The more you get involved, the more interesting it becomes. So ask questions. We'll give you direction and help you out so you learn more. But welcome, and it's great seeing a lot of the sports around the schools being super active, and looking forward to some of the games coming up. That's it.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief, but I kind of want to say the same thing. I had an opportunity to meet the 3 of you and your principals when you were kind of preparing for this. I want to say that it's wonderful to see your involvement, and I'm also very happy with that we have one from each of the schools. This is the first time we've done it, so appreciate that change, and thank you guys are doing a great job. And I also appreciate the support from both the principals that you work with. That's all I've got, so thank you very much. And now, we have the report from the superintendent.
I too want to thank you for being here tonight. Met you last week at our little training, and I have been so excited, looking forward to this board meeting just to see you in action, because in that meeting, I could already tell how invested you were in this role, and what an asset you are to each of our schools. So thank you for being here. Tonight, I would like to present our CASP data overview for 2022-2023. I would like to emphasize to the board that these initial results are not official, and they're based strictly on our own internal calculations from the data that we have received so far. Official, more in-depth reports will be available in November or December, pending release of scores from the state. And at that point is when I can give you an exact breakdown of how many of our students are proficient, how many are near proficiency, how many need a little bit more assistance, and can also provide a comparison to how we did in comparison to the state, nearby districts, and San Diego County. So this year's or last year's, the 2022-2023 scores, and remember, we only test our juniors, so every year it's a different group of students, do demonstrate some areas of need that we have been analyzing and speaking of. We saw a district-wide decrease in English language arts proficiency, a decrease in mathematics proficiency at Oasis High School. At Fallbrook and Oasis High Schools, we saw a decrease in English language arts proficiency, and a district-wide decrease in both English language arts and mathematics proficiency for our students with disabilities. There are also some areas of strength. So district-wide, we saw an increase in mathematics proficiency. Fallbrook High School had an increase in mathematics proficiency, and Ivy High School had an increase in English language arts proficiency. It was actually the only high school of the 3 that showed an increase in English language arts. And our English language learners showed an increase in both English language arts and mathematics proficiency. But again, until we get the official results, I don't have the breakdown of each one of the categories. So overall, when it comes to English language arts, next slide, please. I'm only showing in the blue the students that are below proficiency, and in the orange, students that are at or above proficiency. I would like to remind the board that the reason we are missing 1920 is there was no testing that year. And then in 2021, testing was not required by the state. But we were able to test, I believe it was approximately 72% of our juniors. So the first true scores that we could compare to 18-19 were the 21-22 scores, and then this year 22-23. So from 21-22, we did see a decrease in the number of students, as I stated earlier, that are proficient in English. So we went from 60.91% to 54% of students at or above proficiency. In mathematics for the district, there was a slight increase. So in 21-22, we were at 20.27 proficient, and in 22-23, that went up to 22.99. I realize that is a small gain, but it is a gain, and again, we are looking forward to actually have the data disaggregated to see how many students moved neighborhoods, as we call it. For Fallbrook High School, English Language Arts, last year our proficiency was at 66.94. We had a drop in proficiency to 58.33. And in mathematics, there was a slight gain for Fallbrook High School. So from 23.1% proficient in 21-22 to 27% in 22-23. And we do realize we still have quite a bit of work to do, but we're looking forward to the comparisons with state and nearby districts. In English Language Arts for Ivy High School, in 21-22, 9.8% proficiency. They had a lot of gains this year, due in large part to that Ivy High School team, but also to the English Language Arts teacher, Mr. Corey Boyce. So they went from a 9.8% to 15.52% proficient in English Language Arts. And they also saw gains in math. Again, that Ivy High School team is every single one of them is dedicated to their students, focused on what they are teaching. Mr. Keener oversees the math, and that was a 15.52% gain in proficiency from the year before. Oasis High School saw a decrease in English Language Arts proficiency from 71.8% to 67%. And then when it comes to math, there was also a decrease in math proficiency from 18.75% to 9%. So with these results, some of the next steps that we are looking at, some are new, some are just what we have found is working for us and increasing achievement for our students. So the first one is to continue to identify the standards that need to be taught by grade level and subject matter each year through our standards matrix. That is something that our staff begins to work on in the spring semester of the previous year so that they have time to plan over the summer. And we are placing a greater focus on implementing strategies for how to improve student understanding of the material taught. We have been focusing on what is taught, the standards, for quite some time, and everybody has become a master at that for the most part. So now the next step is we know what we're teaching, we know what students need to learn to be career and college ready. Now how can we continue to improve student understanding of the material that is taught? New this year is supporting our students through Warrior Pride Time. So Warrior Pride Time is held 3 times per week. It is embedded tutoring so that students that need help with homework, or students who were absent for an exam, or students that were absent a few days and then need to make up notes or something like that, can actually work with the teacher to make sure that they receive the assistance that they need. Because we know that some of our students who struggle the most don't have the ability to stay after school or to come in during nutrition, at lunchtime, et cetera, it's sometimes difficult for our students to ask for help. So Warrior Pride Time allows for our teachers to direct them in the areas that they need help in, and they're assigned to go to that classroom and get help from their teacher. Administration is going to continue on learning walks to calibrate alignment and planning, rigor and engagement. Because I can go out to classrooms and in my mind, I'm thinking this is what alignment looks like, this is what planning looks like, this is rigor, this is engagement, and then Ms. Toon might go out and she has a completely separate idea. So we go out in teams and then we discuss what we see so that we can calibrate what we are seeing to better assist our staff in creating lessons that are engaging and that do have rigor, and so that they're aligned, and that's very important, especially now in the trimester system. It also allows us to see superstars, and then we can tell teachers, you know what, teacher A is doing a great lesson with these standards. We can release you to go see how they're implementing that lesson if you're struggling. And finally, continuing with our data reflection sessions and our common planning time. Our teachers during these times review the standards analysis reports that we provide. They identify the students that are doing well, the standards that stood out, and the instructional story that supports the data. So what we mean by that is if students aren't showing proficiency in a particular standard, what was the instructional story? Was it that a teacher, maybe had an emergency and they were out for a couple of weeks or a month? Was it that there were interruptions? Was it that we didn't stick to the standards? We decided to teach something else. And the same thing, students that are doing well, how were the lessons taught to them that we could then replicate with others? We review the achievement profile for the students, review the achievement targets, and establish new targets for upcoming lessons. So if we're showing that 20% of English learners in English 10 are showing proficiency, then our target might be 30 or 35 the next time around. And identify the potential challenges and lesson ideas that can address these targets. And finally, establish and implement common agreements. So how will the agreements support students below the line and under challenged students? And the agreements are, here's our data. What can we do as an English 9 team, an IM1 math team, to make sure that our students that are struggling most achieve? And the staff comes together, they make an agreement, and they hold each other accountable. Administration knows what those agreements are so that when we are doing our learning walks, we can look out for those things as well. How will the agreement support each subgroup? And we have them share evidence of how the team adhered to the agreements each time. So again, we know that we have some areas of need. We've identified our areas of growth. We've looked at how and why did we grow in those areas so that we can then bring those over to the areas of need. And like I said, once the scores are officially released, I'll have a more in-depth report for you. Any questions?
How, how do we prepare our students to be motivated for the test? Is there anything that we do or that is done to encourage the kids and to remind them how important these tests are?
Yes, so there is a lot, as the date draws nearer, we do make sure that the students understand the importance of the test, that they understand that at least for our UCs and our CSUs, this determines the English class that they're going to go into and the math class that they're going to go into, because if they don't demonstrate proficiency, then they're going to basically be taking a course that isn't going to count towards their college degree. Because they have to remediate. So we explain the importance of that. We keep very good records of which students were absent and need to make up a test. And I know that we also have pep assemblies and things like that just to encourage students to take the exam seriously and to do well. And teachers basically talk about it all year long.
Thank you very much. Also, another lot to unpack there. over the couple of years that I've been in this seat, we've talked a lot at conferences or discussions with the superintendent about the importance of the board focusing on student achievement and academics and not to get distracted by other things. There's a lot going on at the school that we're trying to do with construction and planning, master facilities plan, pool, and I just want people to know that we continue to go back and our number one focus is student achievement, and that though these other things are going on, we're doing, we know what's most important, and we're continuing to focus on that. Some of these scores I had hoped would have been better, I'll be honest. I'm looking forward to a couple things. I think the discussion we heard about student attendance and or what's the term?
Chronic absenteeism.
Thank you, chronic absenteeism, which is high. And again, know that has a direct connection with some poor student results. So that's an area that we can continue to improve on. I believe there's been a little bit of an increase in those absentees since COVID sort of, so I just want to convey to families that, you know, how important it is to have their students in school as much as possible. I'm certainly not advocating that we have students come to school when they're ill, but it's a lot more to it than that. So that's one area of improvement. And then the other area that I hope will have a good, will be the Warrior Pride Time. With the rearrangement of the schools and moving to the trimesters, we're going to have opportunity for the students to have short pieces of opportunities to go ahead and get tutoring with their teachers, to do some homework in school. And I'm hoping that will help with some of the numbers that we're looking at. That's all I have. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. And that brings us to
Organization matters.
thank you. Organizational matters. This is the appropriate place in the agenda for members of the board to request the superintendent provide further information regarding items discussed at this meeting and/or to request that new items of business be placed on future agendas. Are there any organizational matters? Hearing none. Date and time of our next meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees will be held on Wednesday, October 11th, 2023 at 4:30 here at the Bob Burton Performing Arts Center of Fallbrook High School. Adjournment, there being no further business to come before the board, the regular board meeting of September 13th, 2023 will be adjourned at 7:03 by President Jones.